Begin this morning with that major legal blow for former President Trump.
An appeals court rejected Mr. Trump's claim he is immune from prosecution in the federal election interference case. He's accused of committing acts while president in an effort to overturn the 2020 election, leading to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The former president, who is the frontrunner for the GOP nomination, now plans to appeal that ruling to the Supreme Court. Trump responded to the court's decision on social media yesterday, calling it dangerous and saying, quote, "A nation-destroying ruling like this cannot be allowed to stand." Let's begin with NBC News correspondent Bree Jackson, who joins us from Washington with more on the ruling. Bree, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Savannah. So this case is one of 4 criminal prosecutions Trump faces, even as he remains the GOP frontrunner. The appeals court decision now paves the way for special counsel Jack Smith to move forward with his federal election interference case against the former president. A federal appeals court rejected former President Trump's claim that he's immune from criminal prosecution related to his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election, including actions that led to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. The ruling states, "We cannot accept that the office of the presidency places its former occupants above the law for all time thereafter."
Whatever protections he thinks he may have, because he's a former president, he doesn't have. He's a citizen Trump.
Trump showing his discontent with the decision, posting online, "A president of the United States must have full immunity in order to properly function and do what has to be done for the good of our country."
He can seek to have this heard by the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court does not have to take it.
The former president's legal team has vowed to appeal, which could cause further delays. Special counsel Jack Smith is hoping to prosecute the case this year.
I think that there is, some gamesmanship really on both sides of playing the calendar based on the election.
Tuesday's decision comes as voters weigh in the Nevada presidential primaries and caucuses this week.
I don't think he did anything wrong.
I feel like every citizen of the United States needs to be held accountable to something that they did wrong.
Trump's legal battles expected to play a key role in the race for the White House. And on Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments over whether former President Trump can remain on the ballot in Colorado. This after the state Supreme Court ruled that he violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which stops anyone who engaged in insurrection from holding elected office. Back to you.
All right, Bree Jackson, thank you so much.
We are now joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Sabalos here on set with us. Danny, good morning. So first, let's just get you to kind of weigh in on both sides of this and your reaction here. So Trump had argued that criminal liability for former presidents will, in his words, open the floodgates for meritless and harassing prosecution. The appeals court found that risk appears to be low, was the way they put it. Tell us what you thought of their decision.
I thought it was a well-reasoned decision. I think a lot of folks are saying that today. But I will say that I thought there could have been more on a particular issue, and that issue is a discussion of whether or not the acts as alleged in the indictment for Donald Trump fell within official acts or even the outer perimeter of his official acts. There was really not a lot of discussion about that, and I was looking for it. But I have to say this, the court didn't necessarily need to wade into that morass of whether or not Donald Trump's conduct was official acts under the presidential immunity, because really their conclusion was that there is no such thing as absolute presidential immunity for a former president for this particular situation. In fact, in a way, the opinion leaves open the possibility that there are all kinds of different situations in which there would be presidential immunity, even for a former president, in the case of discretionary acts, for example, political type acts. But really what they say is in this particular situation, the answer is no.
So now we know the former president plans to appeal. He could go to the Supreme Court. He could also go to sort of the full federal appeals court instead of just this 3-judge panel. If this does go to the Supreme Court, what can we expect to see? What are their options here?
He will not go back to the D.C. Circuit Court. He will not ask for a rehearing. He will not ask for en banc review. And en banc review just means that instead of the 3 on the panel that heard this, the entire court would hear it. And the reason he won't do that, in all likelihood, is because the mandate issued by the court, or the court's order, says explicitly, and this may be the most important thing the court did, more than its actual opinion, they said that he has until the 12th. But if he does ask for a rehearing, it will not stay the case. The case will go back to district court to Judge Chuck Kim. So instead, that leaves the only viable avenue for Trump an emergency petition to the Supreme Court, because that's his only chance for a stay. And that's really the unspoken thing here. It's something that doesn't appear in the opinion or in the briefs or anything else. This is all about delay. That's the only thing the Trump team cares about. If they can delay this past the inauguration, the federal case is over. In fact, all federal cases are over. But they just can't say that in their moving papers. So that is what you're likely going to see. They'll wait until the last possible minute, which will be the 12th. Then they'll file their petition for emergency review and a request for a stay. It goes to Chief Justice Roberts only because he has geographical jurisdiction for this jurisdiction, and then it's up to the court.
Let's talk then about timing. You mentioned that they will delay, but so that March 4th date tossed out for this trial to actually get underway. What's your best guess on when we actually see that happen?
That is always the question, right? But consider this, and I said this for weeks and weeks. For the last few weeks, a lot of folks kept saying, well, where is the D.C. Circuit on this opinion? And I have to say, I kept thinking, well, my only basis for comparing it is normal, mortal, ordinary cases. And those cases ordinarily take a long time. And look at this opinion. It was a 52 or 57-page opinion. That is something that was deeply checked, edited. They were very careful in their opinion. And that's something that's going to take more than a week to write. So all of these things, yes, I can talk about the fastest possible, and maybe you could see a trial by May if everything moves at the fastest rate. But in all likelihood, I always say for a high-profile case, just add a few months. That brings us smack dab into the election.
Danny Cevallos, as always, we appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Former President Trump sat out the symbolic Nevada Republican primary on Tuesday, and his top challenger, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, still came in second to no one.
NBC News projects Haley has lost the Nevada contest despite not having any major challenger. The ballot permitted voters to back a specific candidate or effectively pick none of them. That option, as you can see on your screen right now, received more support than Haley. It was essentially viewed as a stand-in option for Trump. This is Haley's third straight loss to kick off the primary season, but she's vowed to stay in the race. Now, while former President Donald Trump was not on the ballot yesterday, he will compete on Thursday when Nevada Republicans will hold caucuses. Now, that is the contest that will award the state's delegates.
On the Democratic side, NBC News projects that President Biden has won the Nevada primary. The win puts him one step closer to formally clinching the party's nomination, setting up a likely general election rematch in November against former President Trump. Sticking with politics, it was a shocking setback on Capitol Hill for Republicans. In a dramatic moment, the months-long GOP effort to try and impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas failed in a full vote before the House of Representatives.
The defeat came after Speaker Mike Johnson accused Mayorkas of allowing millions of migrants to cross into the U.S.
I don't believe there's ever been a cabinet secretary who was so blatantly, openly, willfully, and without remorse did exactly the opposite of what the federal law requires him to do.
At least 3 Republicans were not convinced, joining all Democrats in voting against the measure.
For more, we're joined by NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin. So, Julie, a vote to impeach Secretary Mayorkas was always expected to be a tight margin, but lead us through this vote, what we're hearing from those 3 Republicans who voted against the impeachment.
Yeah, this was a stunning moment of defeat for Republican leadership, not only in the House, by the way, in the Senate as well, with the dismantling and failure of this border package. But in the House yesterday, man, we were watching C-SPAN, you're watching the floor live. The action was really down to the wire. Al Green, who was a Democrat, came in a wheelchair with his hospital gown after just getting surgery and voted against this measure, knocking down the Republican tallies. And in an effort to convince some of those Republicans who were dead set against voting for this impeachment, Speaker Johnson tried to pressure them to no avail. And here's what one of them had to say on the floor earlier.
The grounds of impeachment to a point where we can expect it to be leveled against every conservative Supreme Court justice, every future Republican president and cabinet member, the moment the Democrats take control.
That was a similar argument made by Congressman Mike Gallagher as well. He said this sets a bad precedent moving forward. Of course, a cabinet secretary has not been impeached in 150 years, guys, but it doesn't mean that this effort is over.
Julie, let's talk about that bipartisan Senate border bill, which didn't last very long. It's going nowhere. President Biden is pointing the finger squarely at former President Trump and Republicans. First, I want to play some of what he said. We'll talk after.
Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends.
If this border bill is indeed voted down, it's only February, to President Biden's point. Is there any time before the November election to get meaningful border legislation pushed through?
No, there's just no way that's going to happen. This was really a last-ditch effort by a group of bipartisan senators who worked for months to try and negotiate a product that could help make the border more secure, to stem the flow of the record migrant crossings that we've been seeing. And Republicans have really said the quiet part out loud, including yesterday. I was at a press conference with Senators Ted Cruz, Rick Scott, who were bashing this deal, who said that this was a political gift, the very idea of trying to come out with a border proposal in an election year. They're all pointing to the ballot box as the only way the border crisis will be fixed. But Democrats now have something to campaign on. You heard President Biden mention some of that. They can now say that Republicans killed a border deal that they wanted, by the way, in exchange for Ukraine and other foreign aid. And they can say, after not saying much about the border, that this is something Democrats are going to prioritize, and it's Republicans to blame for the crisis not being addressed.
So, Julie, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has also told Democrats he's going to force a vote today on his supplemental aid bill without those border provisions. What more can you tell us about that?
Exactly. Schumer actually set up this possibility on Monday. He knew this could potentially happen, that Republicans who originally demanded that Ukraine and border be linked, now reversing course on that position. So what's going to happen today is when Republicans, which they are expected to do, are going to block this bipartisan supplemental bill with the border provisions included at around 1 o'clock. Schumer is then going to go to the floor and bring up a supplemental package without the border security provisions in it, still including the Fend Off Our Fentanyl Act, which is a big bipartisan priority. That unclear the fate of that policy, but of course Ukraine aid is on the line. The House Republicans don't want Ukraine aid, so it really is a question as to how this lands.
All right, Julie Sirkin. Julie, thank you so much.
Now let's get to that unprecedented verdict out of Michigan. A jury finding Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of a Michigan school gunman, guilty in the shooting deaths of 4 of her son's classmates.
Crumbley was convicted yesterday on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for the deaths from a mass shooting in 2021. It's the first time in the U.S. that the parent of a convicted school shooter is being held criminally responsible for their child's deadly actions. The case against her centered on her actions and inactions before her son Ethan shot 10 students and a teacher at Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan. Ethan was 15 at the time.
We've got team coverage of this landmark verdict. We have NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa in Pontiac, Michigan, and we have NBC News legal analyst Angela Sanadella here on set with us. Thank you both for joining us. Maggie, I will start with you there. This has been an emotional trial. What do we know about how jurors arrived at this verdict?
Well, Savannah, basically, they took less than 2 days to get to that landmark verdict, 11 hours by our count. This entire case exactly took 2 weeks from jury selection through the verdict. It's also worth noting among the jury, many of those jurors are parents. Most of them are parents. Many of them are gun owners. And again, arriving at this verdict with a day and a half of deliberations. Inside that courthouse, victims' families telling me they hope this serves as a wake-up call for parents across America.
So, Angela, let's bring you in here. What's the precedent that you think this verdict set? Do you think we're going to see more parents charged in cases like this?
Yes, I do think we will across the country. I also think what this really does is it gives prosecutors a lot more confidence, and it will affect plea deals because they will use this to parents and say, well, look what happened in Michigan. Look, every state has involuntary manslaughter laws. I also think, though, it's important to note that in this case, every member of that jury agreed on this. So this is not to say that if they are charged more frequently, it will result in convictions all the time. It's just, I do think it will bolster the confidence of prosecutors.
Maggie, what kind of sentence is Jennifer Crumbley facing, and what happens next?
Yeah, so it's 15 years maximum per count. So we have 4 counts, possibly 60 years, although our legal analysts tell us it is rare in the state of Michigan for a sentence like this to be handed down consecutively. So, again, we're looking at the maximum 60 years, but the judge has discretion there. Her sentencing is set for April 9th, guys. It's also worth noting her husband's trial. They're being tried separately. His is set to begin next month on March 5th. He faces the same charges, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. And just yesterday, we got our hands on the prosecution's witness list for his trial. trial. Every single witness called by the prosecution for Jennifer's trial is on the list for his. So while it's not a guarantee that those witnesses, of course, will be called to the stand, it's very possible, at least, that we could see a lot of the same arguments that we just heard in Jennifer Crumbley's trial kind of rehashed, for lack of a better word, for her husband's case, which is coming up, guys.
So, Angela, let's talk more about the husband's trial. Do we expect we're going to see the exact same case presented? How does this case impact James Crumbley's case?
Yes, well, I don't think things are looking good for him. I think, in fact, his culpability is arguably worse, given that he is the one who purchased the gun for his son in this straw man purchase. He was not supposed to do that. And according to Jennifer Crumbley's testimony, he's also the one who was in charge of storing the gun. Now, whether or not he will dispute that, we'll see. But I don't think this looks good for him.
She was, in essence, trying to blame him, and she gets convicted. So does that suggest that maybe even the state's case is stronger against him?
Yes, and also when the prosecution wins a case like this, again, with that exact same witness list, their confidence is through the roof. So this next round, he better have better defense attorneys.
All right. Angela and Maggie, thank you both very much for your help on this one.
More showers and heavy snow ahead for the West Coast. Let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Angie Lastman is here in studio. She is tracking the storm's path for us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We've got a couple things to talk about when it comes to this same storm system as it marches to the east. But one note, we are seeing some drier skies across parts of Southern California. It doesn't mean it's going to stay perfectly dry over the next couple of days, because we, in fact, do have another batch of some wet weather working in there. But a couple of welcome breaks. We've got some snow falling in some of those higher elevations across those western mountain ranges, and that's what we're going to see here over the next couple of days. Still plenty of alerts in effect. We have seen them come down for places like Bakersfield and LA as far as the flood concerns as far as the flood alerts are concerned. Notice they're still in effect for parts of San Diego and the surrounding area. We've got winter alerts up and we've got wind alerts, and those extend farther to the east. The system's on the move. So we've got this one that we've been watching. That's going to bring some snow across portions of the Rockies and the plains through the day today. But notice we've got another batch of wet weather that works onshore for California here as we get into the later parts of your Wednesday and into your Thursday. So yes, you might notice some dry skies for a couple of hours today, but we've got more rain on the way. That initial system is also going to bring some snow and some rain to portions of the plains and parts of the Great Lakes here as we get through your Thursday. It'll be a little soggy of a commute for folks on their way home as you are out and about in that area for tomorrow afternoon and evening. Here's the deal as far as the additional rain that we're expecting across those really saturated grounds in California. We've got another inch, maybe inch and a half in some of the more isolated areas. We'll still see another quarter of an inch, though, possible. And that heavy rain, the timing, again, is going to be here as we get into the later parts of your Wednesday and into your Thursday. As far as the snow is concerned, really piling up across these ranges. You can see anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half in a lot of spots across parts of the Rockies. We'll see that, and that's going to make it a little difficult for travel if folks are going to be out and about here in that area over the next day or so. Here's the big picture look. We've still got the record warmth here across parts of the Great Lakes. The middle of the country is running way warm for this time of year. 50s, 60s, even close to 70 degrees across parts of Texas. We've got sunny and kind of milder conditions taking shape across the southeast. But as we look ahead to the weekend, it's going to be the record highs that get your attention for much of the east. We've got temperatures headed into the 50s. We've got temperatures headed into the mid 60s here as we look ahead to Friday. Still dealing with, however, the snow showers across the Rockies and those western mountain ranges as we round out our work week. Looking ahead to Saturday, we've got some heavy rain that will track across parts of the southeast and the interior northeast. We've got more snow for the Rockies. And then finally, we're going to see those sunnier skies settle in for parts of the west, specifically California, which, of course, will have a lot of cleaning up to do. By the time we get into Sunday, we've got some stormy conditions that we'll have to track across parts of the southeast, really warm conditions across parts of the northeast. We're talking upper 50s for parts of the weekend, guys, in the city. And we're going to see still the snow showers working across the middle of the country as we round out our weekend.
I can see some shorts, some tank tops.
I think so. People run even still in the cold in shorts. It's just really mind-blowing.
Sometimes I see no shirts.
I think we'll see a lot of that Sunday. So prepare yourselves. Angie, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.